from 2016, and because of my former colleague also, yeah. It's okay, man. Time changes. We thank God for his faithfulness. Moving on swiftly on matters government spending. The government says the delay in salaries for civil servants and legislators occurred after it was forced to prioritize debt repayment while maintaining that it will not borrow to pay salaries. But this raises the question as to how government collects and spends its money to ensure service delivery to Kenyans. Jimmy Mbogo took a deep dive into government spending and tells us just how much the government collects and spends on a monthly basis.
From the onset, the Kenya Kwanza administration spoke out on inheriting a broke government, pointing to the high debt burden. But 7 months in, the government has found itself in a cash crunch that has, for the first time in recent memory, led to salary delays for civil servants and legislators. But just how does government get the cash needed to operate? For the answers to this, we turn to the last available full month spending by government, February 2023. According to the Kenya Gazette, on the 1st of February 2023, the government had 9 billion shillings in its account. During the month of February, KRA collected 131.4 billion shillings in taxes, while state corporations raised 8.3 billion shillings in non-tax revenue. During the month, the government borrowed just over 29 billion shillings from the domestic market and received 7.8 billion shillings in foreign loans and grants. In total, the government had over 185.5 billion shillings to spend in the month of February, and spend it did. Ministries and government agencies spent 72.9 billion shillings on recurrent expenses and a mere 17.1 billion shillings on development expenditure. Counties were allocated 21.9 billion shillings, while salaries, pension and allowances took up 5.8 billion shillings, which brings us to the real elephant in the room, the national debt repayment, which took up 66.7 billion shillings, or just over 36% of government spending in February. On the 28th of February 2023, the government account had a mere 2 billion shillings. Though the figures for March are yet to be available, we can surmise that any debt due at the beginning of any month are near impossible to repay.
Followed by state corporations in...
This brings us to today, where a tough talking President William Ruto moved to reassure civil servants that they will receive their pay, but said the government will never borrow to pay salaries.
We will not continue the old tradition of borrowing money to pay recurrent expenditure, to pay salaries. We are going to pay salaries from our own resources. We are going to carry out our recurrent expenditure using our own resources. And we have moved our fiscal deficit to 5.7%.
The other challenges facing the government is the nature and structure of Kenya's debt being foreign currency denominated, loans and domestic bonds. To understand this, we turn to the medium-term debt management strategy, which shows that as of December 2022, the country had an outstanding nominal debt of 8.9 trillion, comprising of domestic debt of 4.4 trillion shillings and an external debt of 4.5 trillion shillings. Now, the debt has since risen to 9.18 trillion shillings. The US dollar is the leading denomination for Kenya's debt composition at 61%, a factor that has pushed up the cost of loan repayment as the shilling weakens against the US dollar.
In the next 1 month or so, you will see dollars coming down, the exchange rate coming down in a very phenomenal way. In fact, in my estimation, in the next couple of months, the exchange rate will come below 120 shillings.
In about 2 months' time, the Kenya Kwanza government will be tabling its first budget in parliament. Now, the question that many Kenyans will be hoping to see is whether they will be able to walk the fiscal consolidation path, or will they pick up the borrowing spree from where the previous administration left it. Jimmy Mbogo, KTN News, Parliament Buildings.
Ken, we will not borrow to pay salaries. Yeah, that is the cause of the delay that